Jason Moorhouse with us, looking ahead now to the next 12 months. And we've already kind of discussed in the first half hour, you're kind of in the blocks and you're ready to come out again for another year. And we'll probably do with next week's extraordinary one in a separate interview. But what else is on your mind?
I think it's really the state of the economy. We've got major concerns in terms of rising costs. We've got a new Prime Minister in the UK. She's talking about reducing tax. There's the issue about fuel prices being high. We could quite easily lose £100 million from the Manx government's budget, a tenth of what we've got, at a unfortunate moment to lose that. So in terms of where we are, we're kind of looking down at things that are altering very, very quickly, and it's quite scary in some respects. You're actually talking to people who are scared to put the heating on, and that is serious, because if people don't put the heating on, they're going to become ill and going to get even more problems. So it's the most worrying time I've
electricity's been looked at. In fact, came out of the blocks earlier than the UK. Oh, you shocked with that idea, or good idea? What?
I think it's the first time in the world's history that a government has done something so significant and actually explained to the people what they're doing. We've actually got people who can, any person on Strand Street, who can stop and say, what's the UK government doing to help households? And they all know about the £400. But ask them what they've done, what the Isle of Man government's done over the last 6 months, and they've no idea in terms of the cost of electricity. And it's been a major concern for me since the budget that there's this been kind of undercurrent that the MUA has been working on a policy to help the wider islands people, rather than kind of the normal business objectives of profit, extending networks.
We're all going to pay for the long term, though, aren't we? I mean, it's going to be a loan to them, and we have to pay it back as customers.
That is the issue, but we need to know, before we go to step 2, what step 1 was. Because I would argue, and ask the question on the 22nd of March, how much money is the government actually making available for this to keep prices as they are? And I'd worked out, given the figures we had from the budget, it was probably around £50 million. We've got the promise to keep a cap on electricity price until the end of March next year, and the Treasury Minister is saying a loan of £26 million will be made available. And you're thinking, no, it doesn't make sense. They've already given far more than that, but you haven't told us. Until we actually see the annual report for the MUA to the end of March 2022, we'd actually know what the MUA is doing. Now, we know the MUA have had crises in the past, and I would suggest that potentially we could have £100 million of debt being racked up by the MUA to support the local people, which is good, but it's been done in a really blunt way. So I'm benefiting, you're benefiting, the people who really need the support are benefiting, but perhaps not as much as they could be benefiting.
So what would you do? I mean, we're going off on a tangent slightly, but what would you do if you were like running the country?
I think at this moment we've kind of got too far down the road to actually say, oh, we're stopping at this point. We know there's a 70% increase in electricity price from the 1st of November required. The government have got to say, we will absorb that. That is essential. Everyone needs that clarity. But what happens then has got to be linked to need. Business need, local people's need. We need to then look, as the prices change, what we can do. In terms of the island, we have got reserves, but they're limited. And to say we're going to support all the people with a fixed price on electricity until the 31st of March is concerning, because a lot of businesses, a lot of people can meet these requirements. At the same time, there's people who are struggling and need more help than supporting
we
the
could go on
electricity bill.
the whole thing, but I mean, obviously, we haven't talked about gas or the oil prices, because they're just still market things. What have you got us to look forward to this coming year, though? I mean, what are your plans? Any private members' bills or anything?
I've got one down for October, and that's actually looking at an all-island rate just in terms of...
Oh, that's funny. That's the second person that's... Well, I thought that was really dead and buried, but, you think it's still doable?
I think
all-island rate?
I think it needs to be considered just in terms of the leisure rate, just in terms of moving things forward, improving the facilities, also making sure that it's not just certain locations that are contributing to certain things.
How are you going to pull in all these MHKs to go on your side, though, who are living in these areas that pay very, very low rates?
Well, when it comes to the key bit, it's ensuring that people have the best quality of life. And if you're going to ensure they've got the best pools, the best leisure facilities, the best options, then we all need to contribute.
And that brings us back to the cost of running these things now. It's going to be astronomical. Do you think the government, should they be leading from the front here by not lighting up the wedding cake at night and thinking carefully about how much the air conditioning's up and all those sort of things? Do you think it, because they're asking everyone else to make sacrifices to some degree, well, we all will because we can't afford it. But
Definitely. I did ask the question this spring about why is our heating still on and why is it set at 21 degrees? And as a consequence of that, the heating came down and then went off as we were expecting in the summer period. But, we need to be realistic that it's a limited amount of money, and if we spend it for heating public buildings, for lighting public buildings, then it's not going to be available for the people who need it. But at the same time, we want to have a place that is great to live in. And when people come to the island, think, yeah, I'd like to move here, I'd like to invest here, this is a fantastic place to be. So whilst cutting, you've also got to remember we've got to be making sure the local people have a decent standard of living, but also those people who come actually recognise all the positives.
Talk about a good place and all that and feel good, but this Dr. Ransom thing, how do you feel that's going? And I know it's still technically ongoing, but she's won her case. And I don't hear a lot of MHKs saying anything yet about it. Are you preparing to question things?
Questions have been asked, but it's that situation that it's ongoing. It's difficult from the information we have, knowing the full situation, but it does look odd that the government have kind of had this additional assault in the summer, and there's been no real explanation of what they're doing, and there was the challenges that they brought in. And
so when it's over, do you think you'll be asking a few more?
Oh gosh, definitely, yeah.
But how do you find then when you're processing things and you're trying to do work with the civil servants concerned? Do you find it's easy to work with government people?
I think that's one of my major concerns, and that's the things I focused on when we debated this in Tynwald, that at the moment we've got the minister who is responsible for the department, but at the same time he's the mouthpiece for the officers. And where does the balance lie?
Do we not see that with the bus timetable fiasco almost?
Potentially, but infrastructure is hyper challenging because it covers so many areas. So in terms of the minister, if he was to work 24 hours a day, there'd still be things that he wouldn't have a complete grasp on. I'm a backbencher, I get over 200 emails a day, I'm responding to them, I get the phone calls, meet people, everything else. For a minister, it's many times that I just think, well, how is it humanly possible to take forward all these things with the clarity you need and get the answers you need and then provide the explanations that people need?
Where do you see your future, though? Do you see yourself stepping up to the plate at some point, or you're happy to be a backbencher? Do you want to be a minister? Take control? It's
a difficult one. After the election, it was something I thought was a real possibility. I worked with Alf and
Were you asked?
in this campaign. No. I think...
Were you disappointed? Sorry.
I was disappointed, but I could see what was happening. It was kind of an important change just in terms of the makeup of the cabinet, in terms of the movement to a more gender balance, in terms of ensuring that you got some historical element. So in a way, you're always going to have one person who drops off the list.
And also, you are a bit of a rebel. Aren't you seen as a rebel? Does he want rebels? Maybe he does. I don't know. Well, no, not yet.
It's a difficult one. And yeah, it's back to that issue that having been in infrastructure once and left infrastructure, having been offered a job by Mr. Quayle, and then as I put the phone down thinking, I'm not quite sure if I'd want this role, I've become more cautious. And as you say, in terms of my current position, it's absolutely fantastic because I can ask any question. I've got the time to do the research. I can go in, and it's a real privilege. And I'm really hoping that next year I can do even better at this, because there are going to be more backbenchers trying to get their supplementary questions in and move things forward.
Just finish very quickly. Out of 10 yourself, how have you done?
I could have done any better, but I'd say 9, because it's always trying to get better.
And the government, how have they done?
5.
Ooh. A lot of improvement can be done.
I just feel that given the new opportunities and the need to talk to people, the need to get things done, we've got a massive vacuum and people aren't quite sure what's happening. In terms of the winter support package, we've got a press statement in terms of the £150 that went to 19,000 people in June. People are aware of these things. In terms of supporting the MUA, at least £16 million, probably over £50 million a week. People don't know, and it's you've got a massive comms section, you've got good news stories. Why are you talking to people? You've got a conference coming up. It's got to be more than that.